Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you, and it's Monday, which means it is time yet again for another one of our weekly viewer specials. If you are new to the channel or this series in general, first of all, welcome. Very glad to have you here. Second of all, you should know that every week here on the channel, we like to showcase games from you all, the viewers. It gives us a chance to look at some decks, strategies, or cool builds that I might not have found on my own time. But really more than that, it lets us all kind of come together as a community, cheer each other on, and share our cool games. So if you are interested in this, getting in your replay to the viewer special, that is, you can go ahead and check the description down below. One of the links there is going to be an invite to our Discord server, the Hexlexplex. Once you are in there, under the Master Duel section, there is a channel called Viewer Special Submissions. There you can drop your 9-digit player ID so that I can see your publicly saved replays. As always, if there is one specific game you really want me to see, make sure you're leaving either your opponent's name, the date and time, or a screenshot, something where I know that is the game you want me to watch. But that's pretty much how it works. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's take a look at some of your replays. Okay, our first duel comes to us from Semic, who has a game where they are on Radiant Typhoon as well as Runick. The combination makes a lot of sense. Obviously, all of the Runick cards are going to be, well, obviously, except for the field spell, but most of the Runick cards are going to be quick play spells, which fits very nicely with our Radiant Typhoon vision as well as Crystron. Obviously, Radiant Typhoon in general cares a lot about the quick play spell aspect of the deck, making this a very natural combination. Was kind of thinking about checking this variant out myself at some point, so figured we could see it in action here. And our opponent is going to be on Primite Odeon. Always a tough deck to face down, especially when going second, which we are here. Now, granted, if you're going to be playing against a back row based deck, then obviously you would want to be on Radiant Typhoon, which can very easily destroy spell and trap cards, or back rows. Alright, so like I said, we're taking the second turn here. We've already got quite a bit we can do during our next draw phase. They're going to lead with a Primite Lordly Load for Ether Barrel. Normal summon Ether Barrel, activating in order to set the Drill Beam. So that's one negate we're going to have to play through already off top. Next, we're going to go Lordly Load effects to summon Labradite Dragon. Let's let them Synchro Summon for level 10. That's going to be the Baron de Fleur. And they're going to set 3 more cards, so we have to deal with Baron de Fleur, Drill Beam, and 3 unknown face downs. We're going to lead with Mystical Space Typhoon on what we know is the Drill Beam. Our opponent's going to chain Verdict of Anubis in order to protect it. So I wonder if their last card in hand is another Primite card to reveal, or if they have some other way of getting that Drill Beam to be live. We're going to go for Radiant Typhoon Chant. They are chaining Apophis the Serpent, which will special summon itself and then set Apophis a Swamp Deity, which can activate this turn. And we're going to go Chant for Mystical Space Typhoon. We're now going to activate Mystical Space Typhoon once again on the Drill Beam. They're going to flip up the Drill Beam, and we're going to activate Crystron since a quick play spell was activated. Our opponent's got Solemn Warning in order to negate, though, and being a counter trap, that is going to be the end of this chain link. Crystron is negated and destroyed. Drill Beam is going to banish the Mystical Space Typhoon. Oh, because we control a normal monster. Duh, we don't have to have a Primite card in hand. Okay, so now we're going to go Runick Tip for Flashing Fire. Activate Flashing Fire. Still our draw phase, by the way. That's going to force the Baron de Fleur, and then we can use Runick Destruction on the last face down card, which of course we know to be Apophis the Swamp Deity. So I just want to stop and really revel in that for a moment, right? Like, that was our draw phase. During our draw phase, we answered the Baron de Fleur negate as well as all 4 of those back rows. Again, you really could not ask for a better matchup to go second against Odeon with. Looks like they're going to revive the Labradite Dragon during the standby phase. We can go special summon Eldom. Or I think that was actually a normal summon because they control a spell or trap. Or no, it was a special. Okay. So we're going to go Crystron for Swen and then Mystical Space Typhoon. We're going to add special Swen. Swen effect is going to add Vision. Now we can link summon the Swen plus Crystron, and that'll get us the Varun, the Marine Eidolon. Varun effect is going to add MST, and our opponent, quickly realizing where things are going from here, is just going to end up conceding, right? At the very least, like bare minimum, that board would not only have popped to the Lordly Load, but also set up the Mandate with 2 Mystical Space Typhoon, providing further negates going into the opponent's turn. And granted, all they had left was 2 cards in hand, and just a Labradite Dragon in defense mode. We were looking really, really good. And that's at bare minimum. I think we could have set up a lot more if we chose to maybe gamble a bit and draw a couple of cards, but either way, that was some great stuff. Thank you for that replay, Samek. And we are going to go into the next game right now. All right, our next duel comes to us from Bravo, who is going to be playing with a 60-card version of the K9 Crystron deck. Now, being a Duelist Cup replay, we're not actually able to look at either player's deck. However, over on the Discord server, Bravo provided not only a deck list, which we're looking at here, but also some rather extensive notes. I mean, this one is 63 cards, but it looks like we're just not playing the Chaotic Elements or the extra case for K9. But yeah, as always, I hugely encourage people to check out the channel themselves. My YouTube channel, of course, you're already here, but rather the Discord channel in which these are being posted, right? Because players will often leave notes and or just other thoughts about their decks, which is always valuable insight, right? It's a very, very interesting 60-card version here. Bravo's notes include a mention that the 60-card variant just has a lot more options with the main and extra deck, which the 40-card version of Crystron K9 will often run out of gas by turn 3 after doing its turn 1 combo, which definitely makes sense. All right, so there's a couple of replays here. I think we're going to be looking at this one in particular. All right, we're going to be going first here, so let's see what this deck can set up on turn 1. Ooh, we've already got a lot of options here. We've got the Speedroid Terratop, as well as the Triple Tactics Thrust, if they've got anything for us. We're going to fire off Fuelos against them, which definitely makes sense in a meta where K9 Izuna is around. You've probably seen a number of players, or duelists, you know, in your ladder climbs, firing off Perulias and Fuelos on their own turn 1. And that is anticipation mostly of K9 Izuna or other turn 0 plays. Now here we're using Terratop to go for Cherubni, and that's going to allow us to dump the Crystron Smyger from our deck to the graveyard. Of course, Cherubni can send any level 3 monster from the deck to the graveyard. So now we can go for Inclusion for Sulfenir. Looks like we're going to link off the Takaton board with the Cherubni. Of course, having used a Fistvern from our hand to help make it, and now we can go for Sprite Elf. So Sprite Elf can revive the Tristaros, and then of course Sulfenir is going to use its own effect here. Special summoning and then popping itself. Now Sulfenir effect is to activate, summoning Sulfador from the deck. Now because we have not summoned a Sulfador by its own effect, but rather by another effect, we're actually not locked into machines just yet, which is always worth noting when you're playing Crystron. I believe it is the Sulfador effect to summon and the Tristaros Graveyard effect that lock you into machines. But now we can make the K9 Ripper. That's going to let us add a case for K9. Sulfador Graveyard effect is going to activate popping the Inclusion in order to revive. Now we can Synchro Summon for 7. And that is going to be the Crystron Elliskeletus. We can use Ellie effect in order to add back the cluster we sent earlier with Sulfador. And now Tristaros Graveyard effect can pop the Ellie to summon out Sulfador and Sulfador. And as well as Ellie summoning the Tristaros from the Banish pile. Alright, here is Cyber Dragon Nova. And then we're going to put Infinity on top. Now we got a case for K9, which is going to add the Izuna for some follow-up on our opponent's turn. Setting Cluster and then passing. So we get to add the power of the Sprite Elf target protection to our board here. Unfortunately, the Forbidden Droplet does not target. They're going to send 2 copies of Swen in order to negate Ripper and Infinity before going for Crocea. They really should have done this during our draw phase, but we don't have draw, so I guess it doesn't really end up mattering. Now, because Crocea activated from hand, we can go for Izuna. If we get a couple of searches, we can set up the Lupus and another rank 5 here. They're going to add Phonics, as well as, of course, Mystical Space Typhoon. Okay, now they're going to go for Vision, draw 2, and then discard another Forbidden Droplet. So Phonics can summon itself. We're going to chain Tristaros effect. That is going to summon out the Citri, and now we can Synchro for 9. using 2 level 2 tuners, and of course we'll make the Quarian Gandrix. Now that is able to banish up to 3 cards from our opponent's, I think, field and graveyard? Yes, and graveyard. So Phonix, Corsair, and Swen all going. Opponent's going to chain MST on the face down cluster, which we can just chain in return. And they won't get to bounce anything, or spin anything rather, with the Phonix, because it won't be on the field at the end of the chain link here. Now our opponent's left with only 2 cards. Our Quarian Gandrix gets to activate, as well as our case for K9 here. And we're going to use Sprite Elf to revive the Citri as well. I think Citri has its own effects to quick Synchro Summon during the opponent's turn, if I remember right. Yep, during the opponent's main or battle phase. So there's Smyger, and now we can make a level 5. Actually, by reviving the Takuton Borg, I totally forgot about that part. That's going to make the Excel Synchron. Now we can activate Lupus. And then Excel Synchron is going to Synchro Summon with the Lupus. And that is going to make the Arms of Genix return 0. And by the way, the Arms of Genix return 0 has a lot of different attributes to banish in order to activate. We have access to Dark, Water, Earth, as well as Wind in here as well, with the potential to get Light and Fire. Basically, we have access to all 6 attributes relatively easily in this deck. So you could make a Baron de Fleur, sure, but 1, this is a machine, so it doesn't conflict when we get machine locked, and 2, the effect has a lot more potential to negate, especially against a deck like Draco Tail or other decks that have a ton of different attributes, right? But here we've already got the Cyber Dragon Infinity online and more than enough damage on the board, so we're just going to go ahead and swing in for lethal. That is some good stuff, an excellent showcase of what this specific version of K9 Crystron is able to do. Just goes to show that playing the 60 card variant to get those more options really does pay off a lot of the time. And it's something I don't do nearly often enough. I might have to take a variant like this for a spin myself. Anyway, we've got time for one more replay, so thank you very much to Bravo for showcasing that game. We're going to move on into the last one here. Okay, our final duel comes to us from Gonjamin, aka Benny, over on the Discord server. And we're going to be looking at a Pendulum deck. Not something that I personally play a ton, the Pendulum archetypes, but this is in particular going to be a more dedicated Vaylantz deck. I'm definitely used to seeing Vaylantz as an engine in Pendulum decks a lot of the time, but no, we're going to be on, as I said, a dedicated Vaylantz deck here. And our opponent, let's see, they are going to be playing Blue Eyes. Looks like the Chaos Max variant. All right, let's go ahead and check this out. I don't think we've seen a Vaylantz game probably since the archetype like very first came out. So definitely wanted to give this deck a bit of a spotlight here. Plus, like I said, Pendulum strategies I just don't usually have time to get to because I'm not very familiar with them, and it's just like they're very much their own thing, right? So we'd love to see some Pendulum action though. All right, we're gonna go for the first field spell. They're gonna chain Fuelos right off the bat, which does end up resolving here. Now we can normal summon the Celestial Magician while pendascaling Vaylantz Dominator Duke. That can then special summon, and when Celestial Magician goes to activate, our opponent's going to throw out an Effect Veiler. So it means we're not able to add a Pendulum monster during the end phase. Indeed, it looks like we're just setting Cross-Eye Designator and then passing, before firing off Maxi during their draw phase. They've got a Called by the Grave ready for it, but we have Cross-Eye Designator ready to hit their Called by the Grave. So our Maxi does get to resolve. Okay, so let's see what they end up doing. They're going to normal summon Sage with Eyes of Blue. It's going to go for the Maiden. Maiden effect gets to activate from hand. That'll place True Light. And now we're going to link off, or they're going to link off, rather, the Sage for Spirit with Eyes of Blue. That'll let them get a new field spell, but of course they'll also give us a draw for the Perform Pal Monkey board. Alright, yep, there goes our field spell, so they can play Mausoleum of White. Now Spirit gets to activate. And they're going to special summon a Blue Eyes from hand. Interesting that they chose not to send the Spirit, or the Blue Eyes from the deck to the graveyard. But I suppose it doesn't matter either way, in the grand scheme of things. Also, did we just draw all 3 of our monkey boards back to back? That's very interesting. Okay, so they're going to use the Wishes in order to go for Ultimate Fusion and Veiler. Wish is going to banish to equip Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. Then they're going to go for Tyrant. Alright, now they're going to use Mausoleum. Oh, they were saving it for the Maiden of White. Okay, that makes sense. That makes more sense. Alright, they're still popping off here. Moving to battle phase. Tyrant Dragon gets to battle over our board while Blue Eyes swings in directly. Far from lethal, though. Now, main phase 2, they're going to Synchro Summon for a 9. When I saw the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon go to the graveyard, I almost wondered if Dragon Master Magia was coming with the Ultimate Fusion, but it doesn't look like that's the case, which is obviously good for us. Alright, that Max C gave us a huge bolster here. Now we can go for a new Vaylantz world here. They're going to chain True Light's effect, setting the Majesty of the White Dragons. Of course, it can't be activated this turn, so that's really not that big of a deal. Alright, we're going to summon out our level 2 that can add a Vaylantz spell, or it would if it weren't for Effect Veiler. Of course, we did know about that Veiler already, so I imagine this was probably bait for the hand trap. Now we're going to go for Nizuki the Vaylantz Ninja. That's going to summon itself, and we can link our Priestess and Ninja into the Electromite. Is this card still banned in the TCG? I think it is, which is kind of insane, honestly. Alright, Spirit Dragon's going to activate here, going for the Ultimate Spirit Dragon. I was just thinking to myself that I was wondering why they didn't do that sooner. Maybe they wanted to try to utilize the Spirit Dragon, you know, graveyard effect, or effect that stops effects from the graveyard, rather. Alright, they're going to use their Ultimate Spirit Dragon on our field spell, which I think might have just been a case of them clicking yellow buttons a little bit. Well, what was the effect, I guess, before I criticize too much, they negated. There are 2 more cards, target opponent monster. Okay, so their thing was going to get placed either way. Yeah, so they had to negate that. But either way, the Ultimate Spirit Dragon's really not going to get to use its negate very well here. Now we're going to go for Exceed the Pendulum, setting up our Pendulum Scale. Allows us to use Exceed the Pendulum as effect to summon Nizuki from hand. And then we're going to link summon Exceed with Nizuki into Unchained Abomination. Wow. Haven't seen that card in forever. Alright, now we're going to Pendulum Summon with the keyboard and Celestial Magician. Pen to summon 3 Vaylantz monsters from our extra deck. Alright, so Tails means the attack gets negated. And then if we landed heads, it would have been... Or no, Tails means its attack got halved, and heads means the effect gets negated. Right. Okay, we're making another Electromite, main phase 2. Can do both of its effects yet again. Unchained A-Bomb gets to pop True Light. True Light will end up destroying the Ultimate Spirit Dragon, which in turn will revive the Tyrant Dragon, which is not a big deal here at all. Hojo the Vaylantz Warrior are going to get Pendulum Scaled and summoned. Now we can bounce our Celestial Magician. And we can Fusion Summon now that our monster has moved zones into the Vaylantz Fusion Monster. The oh my god, what was it? Mamonaka. And their opponent has just had enough. They're like, stop, I'm already dead. Oh, good stuff. And of course, Unchained A-Bomb also would have gotten to pop yet another card during the end phase there. Alright. Very good games. Thank you to not only Benny, but also everybody else who submitted for this week. Even if you didn't get featured, there's always the next week and the one after that, so on and so forth. And without your submissions, we could not have the series in general. So thank you all for submitting again, even if you weren't featured this week. But we're also going to make sure to take some time to thank our YouTube members and Patreon subscribers as we move on now to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.